This is KFSM TV, Channel 5, Fort Smith.
For the last 70 years, we have covered the news where you live all across 5 country, and we've been digging through some of the tapes here inside the 5 News Vault. Thanks for joining us. I'm Darren Bobb.
And I'm Alexandra Burnley. Now we're taking you back all the way to 1981. This includes the Rogers Centennial, the largest manhunt that Washington County has ever seen, and the shooting of a Civil War movie.
I do remember when that happened. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to be rolling these tapes back to back. We hope you enjoy.
On June 23rd of this year, the Farmington branch of the Farmers and Merchants Bank was robbed of nearly $8,300. 5 days later, 29-year-old Ronald D. Springston of Wheeler was arrested and charged with that robbery. In U.S. District Court today, Springston's attorney, Bill Putman, told the 7-woman, 5-man jury that proving his client robbed the bank is the easiest job in the world, but proving he did it willfully, of his own volition, is another matter. Putman contends Springston was under a post-hypnotic suggestion the day he robbed the bank, and that he received that suggestion while attending hypnosis sessions to lose weight. According to Putman, in the course of bolstering Springston's self-confidence, Rogers hypnotist Gene Peters told Springston that he could do anything he wanted, that he could even rob a bank. Each side is expected to call expert witnesses in the field of hypnosis and post-hypnotic suggestion. The trial is expected to take about a week. From Fayetteville, Mike Thomas reporting for the News People. Following yesterday's testimony, the prosecution rested its case against 29-year-old Ronald Springston. Today, defense attorney Bill Putman called Springston to the stand. He testified that prior to the robbery, he was suffering from a form of epilepsy for which he did not regularly take his medication. Putman explained that this nervous disorder, coupled with a post-hypnotic suggestion, resulted in Springston's robbing the Farmington Bank.
He was particularly susceptible, and that when the suggestion was made that he was, in fact, intelligent enough, strong-willed enough, whatever, to rob a bank, that this acted as a post-hypnotic suggestion in his subconscious mind and created compulsion, which he just ultimately was unable to resist. He had no choice. He had to do it. We don't suggest for 1 minute that anybody, any hypnotist can go out and hypnotize anybody and make them do something which is criminal, illegal, immoral, or against their will.
While attorney Putman did talk to the press today, the professional code of ethics prevented him from allowing his client to do likewise.
Springston, I realize these gentlemen are doing their job, but I advise you to make no responses to any questions given to you or made to you by the media. Okay. Until this is all over. That'll be a different thing.
The case should go to the jury later this week. From Fayetteville, Mike Thomas reporting for the News People.
Last night's audition for the Arkansas Motion Picture Association attracted 338 would-be actors of all sizes, shapes, styles, and ages. The line began at the Fayetteville Open Channel office and stretched around the block. People eagerly waiting to pay their $5 to join the AMPA and cut a 30-second audition. Not even sudden thunderstorms could drive them away. Unfortunately, there was some question as to what exactly everyone was auditioning for. Inside Open Channel, Joe Glass from the Arkansas Industrial Development Commission insisted that the AMPA tapes would be screened by the people who were casting the blue and the gray. But out in the street, there were frequent, unsolicited warnings that the tryouts were a fraud, that AMPA had nothing to do with the movie. But the warnings, like the rain, didn't have much effect.
We were hoping to get in the movie, but unfortunately, we don't know if this is affiliated with it or not. We've had people telling us it is, and it isn't, and we're still waiting in line to pay the $5. You know, that's where we are.
Well, we had hoped to get in the pictures. Also, we're not very bright.
We'll just see how it goes, and there's always a slim chance, and I like taking chances.
In Fayetteville, this is Steve Voorhees reporting for the News People. When the Union Army decided to try using lighter-than-air balloons for military reconnaissance, aerial warfare was still a pretty new idea. And it was an idea that had some trouble getting off the ground. Ultimately, the Army did have some success using the balloons to spot enemy positions and direct artillery fire. but bright yellow balloons made a tempting target for enemy snipers and cannons, and that was just the most obvious danger. The Blue and the Gray script makes good use of the hazards of ballooning. In the sequence being shot this week, one character finds himself launched on a reconnaissance mission, only to have his balloon break loose in the wind and drift over to the enemy camp. Not exactly an ideal mission. But if aerial warfare had its difficulties during the Civil War, putting the balloon episode on film is really complicated. It took more than 2 hours to set up just one shot this morning, a bird's eye view of the balloon being launched from the Union camp. The shot required the services of an industrial crane and a gondola rigged up to hold a camera and a two-man crew. After instructions from director Andrew McLaughlin, the unit was hoisted into the sky where it hung suspended like, well, sort of like a reconnaissance balloon. Of course, the camera crew had at least one advantage over Civil War balloonists. While the cameramen were shooting, no one was shooting back. In the Ozark National Forest west of Fayetteville, this is Steve Voorhees reporting for the News People. One of the most amazing things about the filming of The Blue and the Gray was that the set was open every day to anyone who wanted to watch a movie being made. It was a bonanza for autograph hunters, of course, but if you were patient and waited around long enough, you also got to see some things that never made it into the movie. Open sets are not the rule for a Hollywood production. In this case, though, the policy was a perfect example of the cooperation between the movie makers and the people of Northwest Arkansas. Floyd Bohannon acted as liaison between the film company and the community. He looked back on that experience recently and described the feeling that seemed to affect everyone involved with the movie.
Well, this is one thing that I kept hearing time and time again from the Columbia people, the actors, the actresses, the crew. Everyone that was here in the area just literally fell in love with the Arkansas people because of the personalities. Everybody was offering to help. They just could not do enough, actually, to make those people feel at home. Good old Southern hospitality, and they all loved it.
If you asked one of the movie people to define this brand of hospitality, he could probably do it in 2 words: Prairie Grove. The movie crew spent most of the month of October filming in and around the town of Prairie Grove, at the Battlefield Park where the Battle of Bull Run was staged, and at other more remote locations, like this one, which provided a setting for parts of the Wilderness Campaign. Nothing like The Blue and the Gray had ever happened to Prairie Grove, and from all reports, the 3,500 or so people who live there loved every minute of it. So on the night of October 22nd, it seemed perfectly natural for the townspeople to invite the Hollywood folks over to the high school gym just to say thank you.
I can't emphasize enough the cooperative spirit, the good neighbor policy of these people. You know, they've been in our town, and naturally, you know, when you bring in something like a Barnum and Bailey circus with all these things and everything, there's going to be a little bit of inconvenience. Our people as a whole have not minded this at all. It's been exciting, and they've been good to us, and we just want to say thank you.
CBS Vice President Bob Marcal was suitably impressed.
It's quite marvelous and very, very touching, as everybody said here. And I know it sounds like we say this all over, we don't. I've never been to such a warm place and such a cooperative place, and it reflects also on the group making the picture. The warmth comes from both sides.
It would hardly be fair to give the impression that making The Blue and the Gray was one long party, not when the average workday was at least 12 hours long. And fall weather seemed to hit the Ozarks a little early last year, so working conditions weren't always ideal. Still, the spirit of cooperation and the festive mood never faded. And on the last day of shooting, when the producers wanted to throw a lunchtime wrap party, it was no surprise that the Prairie Grove High School Band was part of that celebration.
Every good thing has to come to an end, we all realize that, but shooting The Blue and the Gray here in Northwest Arkansas has been a really special experience for me. And I hope that, I'm sure it'll show on the screen, because there's been so much camaraderie and friendship and new friends and help, and it all mixed up to make one great big beautiful pie.
It's ironic if you think about it. The Blue and the Gray is a movie about the worst conflict this nation has ever seen. but it was made in a spirit of cooperation and hospitality. The war divided families and friends, north and south, black and white. The movie brought people together. It's hard to imagine two places in America with less in common than Arkansas and Hollywood, but when the people from these places got together, everything worked out fine. A movie about Civil War became an experience in diplomacy and friendship.
KFSM-TV, Channel 5, Fort Smith.
On March 20th, 1981, West Fork Police Chief Paul Mueller was shot and killed while trying to pull over a car on Highway 71 just south of town.
The suspect who shot Chief Mueller, Rodney Britton, ran off, sparking one of the largest manhunts in Washington County history.
And we're going to look back at that story and how one Fayetteville police officer was actually wounded in the search for Britton.
The largest manhunt in Washington County history ended here in this two-story farmhouse near the Bethlehem community. Fayetteville patrolman John Schuster was reportedly making a routine check of the building. He found Britton hiding in an upstairs bedroom, and the two began firing. Schuster was hit twice but managed to crawl out of the building, where other officers got him to safety and called for assistance. As state police set up roadblocks around the area, more than a dozen officers surrounded the house. Britton was ordered to surrender. There was no response. Tear gas was fired into the building, and a fire broke out in the lower story. Two officers entered the house and found Britton's body.
Subject is 10-7. 10-4. Suspect is 10-7. 10-4. Also appreciate everybody's cooperation in staying off the air. That is now back to normal.
According to County Sheriff Bud Dennis, Schuster had managed to hit Britton at least 4 times, including once in the chest. Police say Britton was probably dead minutes after the shootout. Officer John Schuster was reportedly shot once in the shoulder and once in the leg. He is in stable condition at Washington Regional Medical Center. In West Fork, this is Steve Voorhees reporting for the News People. The funeral services were held in the West Fork High School Gymnasium, the only building in town large enough to hold the crowd of mourners. The flag was flown at half-mast in front of the high school as a symbol of the town's respect. During the service, Police Chief Paul Mueller was described as a dedicated officer, a man who loved his job and the people he served. Many of the townspeople who attended the funeral said they had known Mueller personally and described him as a friend. Of the nearly 1,000 men and women who came to pay their last respects, more than 300 were fellow police officers. Many of them had already paid tribute to Mueller in another way, by dedicating long hours to the 4-day hunt for his killer. Several officers said they felt that Mueller could rest easier now that the man accused of his slaying was also dead. For the police officers from across the state who attended the services, the funeral was more than a final tribute to a fellow officer. Mueller is one of 3 policemen who have been killed in the line of duty so far this year in Arkansas. His funeral was a grim reminder that the same thing could have happened to any of them. In West Fork, this is Steve Voorhees reporting for the News People.
For the people of West Fork, Paul Mueller's death was the beginning of a nightmare that left this town gripped in fear. Many residents here felt terrorized while Mueller's assailant was still on the loose. They were afraid to leave home or to go to sleep at night. But that fear subsided last night with the death of Rodney Britton. And today the nightmare finally came to an end as the man who protected this town so long was laid to rest.
I think everybody was so scared to death, nobody was moving anywhere. But now, you could tell this morning already, there was a lot more traffic when I came into work, and really livened back up. It's really great.
They were very enthusiastic about getting the man that killed West Fork Marshall. And I think the majority of the people today are satisfied that they have the man, at least they think they have the right man that did kill Mr. Paul Mueller. So I think the majority of the people are well satisfied now.
I think it worked out good. I'm glad they really stayed with it. He almost got away. They're looking away up Lee Creek, and he's right over here out of West Fork. So I'm glad that they stayed with it. I think old Dennis done a good job. Yes, I'll vote for him next time.
If there is anything positive to be said about what happened here, it is that the crisis tended to bring the people of West Fork closer together. Those people have now started a drive to raise money for Mueller's widow and 2 children. Anyone wishing to contribute to the Paul Mueller Memorial Fund may contact the West Fork City Hall or the First National Bank of Fayetteville. This is Philip Bruce reporting from West Fork for the News People.
When Fayetteville patrolman John Schuster entered this farmhouse 3 weeks ago, the last thing he expected to find was the man he was looking for, alleged killer Rodney Britton. In an interview from his hospital bed today, Schuster said that he believed at the time that Britton had escaped from the area. But as he searched the house, Schuster heard a noise in the attic and decided to investigate.
When I got up there, you know, when I seen him, he said freeze, and I was turning, and then he shot me. And of course, when the force hit me, I looked down, and then I started shooting back. First one was click, then I just started pulling the trigger. You know, I just really never thought about it. I was just hoping the rest wouldn't, you know, I really didn't have that much time to do much thinking. Yeah, I could see this gun. He had his feet pulled up, had his hands, you know, over his gun. I could just like see the gun in his eyes. His eyes just were real big.
When the gun battle was over, Rodney Britton was dead, and John Schuster was suffering from 2 gunshot wounds and a broken arm. He says it seemed to take forever for an ambulance to arrive from Fayetteville to take him to the hospital. In the days that followed, Schuster says he was amazed by the public reaction. His room filled with flowers and cards. His family was swamped by offers of help. He was in pain from his wounds, and his spirits were low. The support couldn't have come at a better time.
Public has been outstanding. They've really been great. The flowers and stuff, and the nurses here on this floor has been outstanding. Nurses and aides and stuff, and down in therapy, it's been really good. Everybody's been really great. I can hardly believe it. You know.
The most surprising thing for Schuster was that he suddenly found himself described as a local hero. It's a role this modest 22-year-old is reluctant to accept.
I don't feel I'm a hero, you know, because I had to shoot somebody, but I had to do my job. It was my job. Everybody down there knew the chance they were taking. Either shoot back or die. I didn't want to die.
Schuster says he hasn't made any special plans for the future, or at least he hasn't changed his original plans.
When I get out of here and get back to where I should be, go back to work at the Fayetteville Police Department. Plan on retiring there if I make it.
All this hasn't changed your feelings about police work or anything?
No, I knew that's, you know, it's a job. It was my job. I like it. I like the work.
In Fayetteville, this is Steve Voorhees reporting for the News People.
In case you are wondering, John Schuster did return to work, serving at the Fayetteville Police Department and the Washington County Sheriff's Office for more than 40 years.
Yeah, he has since retired, but he has kept in contact with the Washington County Sheriff's Office over these years.
The bad weather that forced the celebration into the Kirksey Gymnasium didn't dampen the spirit of the nearly 1,000 people who came to see the city's centennial celebration. That's about 400 more folks than lived in Rogers 100 years ago when the first passenger train, old number 17, arrived in town. The fact that the city remembers such milestones was the theme of Senator Dale Bumper's speech as he reminded the audience of the necessity of historic preservation.
And I hope that you will remind your children of some of the travail you've gone through and some of this city's great past, because they cannot preserve it for another 100 years unless they understand what it took to get you to where you are.
Governor Frank White agreed with the senator that the past is worth holding on to, noting that for the past century, Arkansans have preserved their way of life quite well. Mayor Jack Cole received a debt-free deed to the Rogers Centennial Park and a handwritten copy of the original city charter. And like most festive occasions, there was cause for celebration. There were flags and songs. Best of all, a birthday cake 100 feet long. From Rogers, Mike Thomas reporting for the News People. At 25, Lisa Birnbach is already a best-selling author. In the past year, her official Preppy handbook has swept the country. A graduate of the Ivy League's Brown University, Birnbach gave U of A students last night a prep talk. For starters, she says, wear only natural fibers, never polyester, and the more layers the better, and having some athletic ability helps. In addition to hog calling and toupees, there seem to be many things that are not preppy.
Facial hair is not preppy. The tie you have on is not preppy. Your trousers are not preppy. Your shoes, your socks, your glasses. The one thing about you, and keeping a pen in that pocket is not prep. The one thing about you that is prep, however, and this is a compliment, this is not to be taken badly, is your receding hairline, because it's proof of a certain proclivity to earning money.
Birnbach says for some folks, there's only minimal, and she stressed minimal, hope of ever being a king of prep. From Fayetteville, I'm Mike Thomas.
We've hoped you enjoyed this blast from the past all the way back to 1981. Where were you in 1981? I was sitting in a biology class in my senior year in high school.
I wasn't on Earth yet.
That's how old we all are.
Tell us where you were by texting 479-785-5000. From the 5 News Vault, I'm Alexandra Burnley.
And I'm Darren Bob. Thanks for joining us.